10 days before the annual meeting, I read a message I was never supposed to see, and my name was the punchline. It was 7:48 p.m., and the office was almost empty. The cleaning crew hadn't come up yet. The vending machine hummed in the hallway, and my laptop was still running a debug build that I didn't want to interrupt. I was only waiting for a test to finish when I went into one of the huddle rooms to grab a whiteboard marker. That's when I saw it. A laptop, still logged in, Slack open. At first, I didn't mean to look. You train yourself not to in corporate life. But the screen flashed with a new message, one line bolded in a thread I recognized. "We'll switch his deck Friday. He'll never know until it's live." Underneath, 3 reaction emojis, a fire, a skull, and a champagne bottle. I froze. The conversation header said, "Rear Core Team Private." I wasn't part of that channel, but the sender? The VP of Product. My boss's boss. I should have looked away. Instead, I scrolled. The next lines made my stomach drop. "Let's stage it during the investor stream. He goes on at 10:45. We just need access to his slides by midweek. The new charts are ready. Make sure it looks authentic, no typos. If we can make him claim it himself, it'll be perfect." Perfect. That word rang in my head like static. For context, I'm a mid-level product manager at a fintech startup in San Francisco. 10 days from that moment, I was supposed to present our quarterly performance to 2,000 employees and a few dozen investors watching remotely. My slides summarized 8 months of work, retention numbers, cohort growth, pilot revenue. Every pixel had been reviewed twice. That deck was my reputation, and apparently it was about to be my execution. I looked at the names in the thread, the VP, of course, then Liam, another PM who'd been circling my role since last year, and Cass, one of our data analysts. I had mentored Cass. She'd helped clean up the dashboard for last quarter. Now she was suggesting color palettes for the fake charts. My first instinct was denial. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe switching decks meant something else. But the more I scrolled, the worse it got. Let him present the fake retention graph. Compliance will eat him alive. We'll claim it's a miscommunication. He deserves it after that API stunt. The stunt they mentioned was when I'd refused to ship a feature that wasn't compliant with new privacy laws. It delayed their launch by 3 weeks and embarrassed the VP in front of the board. Now I understood. I backed away from the laptop, pulse pounding. I left everything as it was. No screenshots, no signs of access. I walked back to my desk, closed my computer, and stared at the blank monitor reflection. They were planning to humiliate me, live in front of the entire company. For about a minute, I considered quitting, just walking out, leaving a resignation note, and watching them dig their own graves. But then I thought about my team, the analysts, designers, the 2 junior PMs who'd spent weekends debugging that retention cohort. If I disappeared, they'd be the next scapegoats. No, I wasn't going anywhere. I opened a new document titled, simply, log, and I began to write. 7:52 p.m., Slack message observed. Participants, redacted. Device, MacBook Air. Room 3B. User autolock disabled. Content summary. Intent to alter presentation deck. Then I made a plan. Not for revenge, not yet, but for survival. Step 1. Protect the source deck. Step 2. Track every edit, every access. Step 3. Gather proof before they realize I know. By 9 p.m., I had saved the original deck as a read-only PDF, computed its SJ256 checksum, and printed both onto a single sheet. I sealed it in an envelope, signed across the flap, and time-stamped it at the company mailroom kiosk. It sounds paranoid, but paranoia is what keeps you employed when people start whispering. The next morning, I pretended nothing had happened. I said good morning to Liam, who smiled like a man already celebrating. Cass waved from her desk, headphones around her neck. The VP wasn't in yet, but his office door was half closed. The universal symbol of I'm plotting something. Don't disturb me. At noon, an updated deck appeared in the shared folder. My name was on it, but I hadn't uploaded anything. The version history said, modified by Cass, 11:42 a.m. I opened it. It looked like mine at first. Same cover slide, same typography, but the retention graph, the one slide investors actually cared about, had been changed. The curve was higher. Too high. It looked like a miracle quarter, the kind that would get people promoted. Except it wasn't real. The fake trend line even had a subtle highlight around the 70% mark. A proof I knew compliance would notice instantly. It wasn't just sabotage, it was a trap. I didn't touch it. Instead, I downloaded the file, compared its metadata with my copy, and logged the discrepancies. I even noted the IP address that showed up in the activity log. That night, while the office emptied again, I sat in the dark conference room and watched the reflection of the city lights in the glass. I wasn't angry yet. Anger is loud. Loud gets you noticed, and I couldn't afford that. I was patient. If they wanted to play with fire, I'd make sure the fire left fingerprints. On the 7th night, I placed a small sticky note inside my notebook. Just one line. Facts don't panic. At the time, it was a reminder. Later, it became something else entirely. If they were going to burn me with slides, I'd make sure the fire left fingerprints. That became my mantra somewhere between the 6th coffee of the morning and the moment my cursor hovered over the version history tab for the 5th time in an hour. They'd already touched my deck once. That meant they'd touch it again. The trick was to make them think they'd gotten away with it, while quietly recording every single move they made. I spent the morning building a mirror of the shared folder on a private cloud drive the IT team didn't monitor. I set up automated syncs and logs that captured file hashes every time a document changed. It was overkill maybe, but paranoia, I'd learned, was just another word for foresight. Then I crafted 2 versions of the deck. The real one, clean data, unedited charts, actual retention numbers. The decoy, nearly identical, but with subtle differences. A mislabeled axis, one chart legend shifted by a single pixel, and, most importantly, invisible watermarks hidden inside the slide backgrounds. Each watermark was unique, a cluster of off-white dots encoded with a hash that matched the time I exported it. No one could see them, but an auditor could verify them in seconds. The idea wasn't just to prove the deck was tampered with, it was to prove who had tampered with it. I saved both versions, labeled the decoy as Final V4, and left it sitting in the shared folder like bait. By 3 p.m., the trap was already twitching. I saw Cass's username pop up in the edit log. She opened V4 and spent 17 minutes inside it. 17. Long enough to copy it. Too long for an innocent glance. A few hours later, Liam commented on one of the slides. "Looks amazing. Let's make sure this matches the investor version." That one sentence told me everything. They'd taken the bait. That night, I filed a data export request to the analytics department. A formal JIRA ticket, CC'd to compliance. My note was simple. Preparing materials for the annual investor meeting. Need verified retention data, Q1, Q4, for demo backup. It looked routine, boring even, but the timestamp on that ticket would become the lifeline for everything that followed. It meant that as of that day, I'd requested a verified, official dataset, and anything different shown later would be on them. By the 5th day, the office felt colder, tighter. Liam had started smiling too much, the kind of smile that only shows up when someone's rehearsing victory in their head. The VP had gone quiet, which was worse. Silence from him meant plans were crystallizing. I played along. In meetings, I nodded at his jokes. When Cass mentioned slide polish, I said, "Take your time. I trust your eye." The words tasted like glass, but I said them anyway. The only way to catch a snake is to let it think it's invisible. That evening, I went to the security desk on the ground floor. The guard, Mike, was a retired cop who liked to talk about fishing more than anything else. I brought him coffee and asked, as casually as I could, if badge access logs were archived for our floor. Everything's archived, he said, tapping the monitor. Why? Just curious. Someone's been leaving the meeting room unlocked after hours. Thought maybe you'd know who. He shrugged, printed a small report, and slid it across the counter. Between you and me, only 3 people were up there this week past midnight. You, that VP guy, and one of the data folks. Cass something? I thanked him, folded the paper, and slipped it into my notebook. Back upstairs, I checked the version logs again. The decoy deck had been accessed twice more, both times between 12 and 12:30 a.m. The timestamps lined up exactly with the badge log. There it was, the proof chain forming line by line, timestamp by timestamp. But paranoia has a cost. You start to notice everything. The way Liam's laughter sharpens when you walk by. The way conversations stop a beat too quickly. The way Slack notifications vanish before you can click them. On the 5th night, I stayed late. Not to spy, but to listen. The walls in our office weren't soundproof, and the glass meeting rooms acted like amplifiers. Around 9:20, I heard voices, muffled, then clearer. He'll never check the teleprompter, Liam said. He's too busy rehearsing, Cass replied. Good, the VP added. Make sure the script cues the fake numbers. We'll have compliance begging for answers before lunch. The sound of laughter after that sentence hit me like cold rain. I closed my laptop, leaned back in the chair, and looked at the ceiling. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was calm, like a diver below the surface where the noise can't reach. When I got home, I opened the decoy deck one last time and added one more invisible mark. A barely perceptible rotation of the company logo on slide 7. If someone duplicated that slide later, the angle would betray them. The next morning, during rehearsal, I saw it. On the massive LED screen in the event hall, during a tech run, Cass loaded a version of the deck onto the teleprompter monitor. She thought no one was watching, but I saw the logo tilt. My logo, my mark. That's when I knew. The trap was set. They thought they were writing my downfall. They had no idea I'd already written their confession. I walked back to my desk, calm, steady, and for the first time in a week, I smiled. Not the forced, office kind, but something sharper. Because the thing about evidence is it doesn't argue. It just waits. And mine was almost ready. 2 days before they planned to end my career, I sent 3 emails that made lawyers set alarms. It was Friday morning. The office smelled like burnt espresso and cheap confidence. The annual meeting rehearsals were in full swing downstairs. Executives pacing, tech crews taping cables, someone complaining about fonts. Nobody noticed me slip into a side conference room with my laptop and a folder labeled Backup Assets. Inside that folder wasn't a backup. It was a map, a record of everything they'd done. The checksum sheet, timestamped 10 days earlier. The badge log showing midnight entries. The screen capture of Cass's modified chart. The analytics export ticket from compliance. And finally, the decoy deck with its invisible watermarks, now verified by an external tool that logged coordinates down to 1/10 of a pixel. I didn't send this to HR. HR protects payroll, not people. I sent it to the CFO's chief of staff with the subject line, FYI, data integrity alignment ahead of investor stream. No emotion, no accusation, just corporate code for something's about to blow up, and you'll want it on the record that I warned you. Attached, I included a 1-line note, flagging these for preemptive review per compliance policy. 5 minutes later, I got a calendar invite titled, Brief, 10:15 a.m., the location, Legal Conference Room B. When I walked in, 2 people were already there, the chief of staff and a woman I hadn't seen before, dark suit, no badge lanyard, quiet eyes. She introduced herself as Marianne, Senior Compliance Officer. She didn't ask how I was. She asked for facts. I gave her everything. No dramatics, no speculation, just timestamps, access logs, and file comparisons. When I finished, she tapped her pen twice, then said, You understand that we can't intervene publicly yet? I'm not asking you to, I said. Just watch. She studied me for a moment. You seem calm. I've had 10 days to practice. Marianne smiled slightly. Then let's keep it that way. If they push, you hold your presentation. Do not deviate. We'll take care of the rest. By that evening, I was certain of two things. 1. Compliance was officially watching. 2. The others still thought I was blind. That night, I worked late again. The lights in the office cast long shadows across the desks. Around midnight, I noticed movement through the glass partition. Liam, in a hoodie, whispering into his phone. His reflection trembled against the window's dark surface. Yeah, he has no idea, he said, pacing. He's still using his version. We're fine. Just make sure the teleprompter has the correct numbers. I didn't move, just watched him walk back toward the elevators. Saturday morning, the company email blasted. Final rehearsal day. Let's bring our A game. I laughed out loud. I had no A game. I had evidence. They rehearsed their part like it was theater. Liam checking slides, cast triple verifying fonts, the VP pacing like a general before a parade. I kept to the back, pretending to take notes. When they swapped in the doctored deck, I saw it instantly. My fake chart, the watermark logo tilted 3 degrees to the right. I didn't stop them. I needed them to use it. At lunch, the VP cornered me near the kitchen. He clapped my shoulder, too friendly. Ready for the big show, champ? Always, I said. He smiled. Good, just don't improvise. Stick to the script. I met his gaze and smiled back. I never improvise with numbers. He didn't catch the warning. By Sunday, the event hall was wired, banners hung, chairs aligned like soldiers. The tech crew tested every HDMI source, every mic. I used that chaos as cover. I asked one of the AV engineers, can I get a test on the backup feed for my section, just to be safe? He shrugged. Sure, man. That's when I connected the live dashboard, a secure, read-only data visualization that pulled metrics directly from the company's main database, locked under compliance credentials. No slides, no edits, no spin, just truth. I programmed a hotkey sequence on my remote. If the doctored slide appeared, one click would swap to the live dashboard instantly. The audience wouldn't even know it was planned. At midnight, I rehearsed in the empty auditorium. The lights were blinding. The stage smelled like new carpet and dust. I walked through every word, every pause. The fake retention chart would come up at minute 3. That's when I'd pivot. No panic, no confrontation, just facts. When I got home, I couldn't sleep. My apartment was silent except for the hum of the fridge. I sat on the couch with a glass of water, staring at the 1-page card I'd printed the night before. Facts don't panic. I slipped it into the inside pocket of my jacket, next to the envelope with the checksum printout. At 5:45 a.m., I was already dressed. The suit was ironed, tie simple, shoes polished. I took the early train to the venue. The sunrise over the bay was the same color as the company logo, pale orange fading into steel. Outside the convention center, I saw Liam and Cass laughing with the VP, holding coffee cups like conspirators. They didn't see me, or maybe they didn't care. They thought the game was over. Inside, I clipped on my mic and waited behind the stage curtain. The announcer's voice echoed through the hall. Next up, Product Strategy, Quarter Review, presented by David Ellis. That's me. As I stepped into the spotlight, my heartbeat slowed. Not faster. Slower. Like my body already knew what was coming. I looked at the sea of faces, executives, investors, cameras. I smiled. Good morning, everyone. Let's talk about what actually happened this quarter. They had no idea that by the time I reached slide 3, the floor beneath their plan would vanish. They pulled the trigger in front of 2,000 people. I didn't stop them. The stage lights were hot enough to sting, the kind that makes you blink slower, just to hide the sweat on your face. The MC finished my introduction and gave me that practiced smile executives use when they expect a train wreck, but want plausible deniability. David Ellis, Product strategy, applause, flashing lights, a soft hum of conversation that quieted when the first slide came up. Slide 1, fine. Company logo, a quote about innovation. Slide 2, retention definition, the preamble. Slide 3, the doctored graph. I paused, just long enough for the silence to thicken. The chart behind me showed a 70% retention spike. Impossible. I heard someone in the front row whisper, "That can't be right." Perfect. I took one small step forward, my clicker in my hand, my heart perfectly steady. "Before we dive into the numbers," I said, my tone light, conversational, "let's make sure we're all looking at the same truth." Click. The screen froze for half a second, then switched to a live dashboard. The real numbers appeared. 64.3%, not 70. Down slightly from last quarter, but in line with the forecast. The data updated in real time, each data point stamped with a compliance watermark. The audience murmured. Cameras zoomed in. "This," I said, turning to the crowd, "is a direct feed from our verified data set. It updates live every 12 hours, and these figures were last reconciled." I glanced at my notes. 2 days ago, by our compliance team. I didn't look at the VP. I didn't have to. I could feel the stillness spreading from his section of the audience like a cold draft. I clicked again. The dashboard split screen beside the fake slide. 2 identical graphs, except one was real. "Now," I said, "someone clearly wanted to save us time by enhancing these visuals. The intention was admirable." A few uneasy chuckles rippled through the audience. "But accuracy," I continued, "isn't something we decorate. It's something we defend." Behind me, the watermark logo, my tiny rotated company symbol, was now clearly visible under the projector glare. It tilted 3 degrees off-center. Subtle, but undeniable. That was when the first ping hit my watch. "Marianne, compliance. Stand by. Do not leave stage." I clicked to the next slide. Not fake, not doctored, just the dashboard summary. "So," I said, "instead of defending a miracle, I'd like to walk you through the real story, the one we actually built." I continued my presentation as if nothing had happened. My voice didn't shake. I talked about customer cohorts, Q4 engagement, feature rollouts. The numbers weren't perfect, but they were honest. And the room responded to that honesty with something I hadn't heard in weeks. Respect. Halfway through, I noticed 2 men in suits move quietly down the side aisle. They didn't run. They didn't make a scene. They stopped near the VP's row. One leaned down and whispered. The VP stiffened. Cass turned pale. Liam froze, his hands clamped around his phone. I didn't stop speaking. "And as for our roadmap," I said, clicking to the next slide, "we'll be consolidating analytics and automation under one product stream for greater transparency." I looked straight into the crowd and added, "Transparency is the foundation of trust." That line landed hard. By the time I finished, the audience was dead quiet. No applause yet, just processing. Then slowly, the CFO stood and began to clap. Others followed. The sound rolled through the hall like a wave. I nodded once, gave a small smile, and walked off stage. Backstage, Marianne was waiting. Her expression didn't change, but she extended a hand. "Well executed," she said simply. "What happens now?" I asked. She checked her watch. "They're being escorted to legal. The VP's already resigned for personal reasons. You'll get the memo before lunch." I wanted to feel triumph. I didn't. What I felt was relief, heavy, quiet relief. In the green room, I took off my mic and sat alone. The adrenaline left my hands shaking for the first time. My phone buzzed with messages. Coworkers, friends, even executives. That was incredible. "You saved the company's face." "Legend." I ignored them all. Instead, I pulled the envelope, the one with the checksum printout, from my jacket. I tore it open, looked at the date, and smiled. 10 days. 10 days of restraint, patience, and silence. I folded the paper once, twice, and dropped it into the trash. The evidence had done its job. By 3 p.m., the internal memo went out. Effective immediately, VP of Product, name redacted, has chosen to step down. Product Analytics will report directly to the CFO's office during transition. Special thanks to David Ellis for ensuring data integrity during the annual review. I stared at that last line for a long time. Then I closed the email. When I returned to my desk on Monday, no one looked me in the eye, not out of guilt, out of awe. The same people who had whispered about me last week now spoke my name softly like a password. Liam's desk was empty. Cass's monitor was gone. The VP's office was locked, blinds drawn. In their place was a single envelope resting on my keyboard. Inside, a handwritten note from the CFO. Integrity isn't loud. Let's talk promotion next week. I leaned back in my chair and exhaled. For the first time in weeks, I opened Slack and typed one message to my team. Facts don't panic. Then I shut my laptop. Outside, the city moved on. Cars honking, phones buzzing, people late for meetings. Inside, everything was quiet. Exactly how I liked it.